just good to know these rules. Lower frequencies propagate better than higher frequencies, and we need a strong signal on the roof. All these things improve the coverage. Okay, a question that just gets asked, this is a practical question. You know, you're in the countryside, what's the minimum amount of signal I need to see before a repeater system will work? And look, what we say is we want to see minimum 3 to 4 bars of GSM. All right. So let's say you're in the countryside, there's no 4G, there's no 3G, you're just getting a sniff of GSM, all right? 3 or 4 bars of GSM, the repeater system will work. You know, 5 bars of GSM will work better. If you start seeing H+, the repeater system will work better again, okay? Okay, so just some rules with the outdoor antenna placement. So basically just keep the antenna away from anything metal on the roof. Okay? It has a big effect on the signal. Any sort of metal near that antenna. Be careful of flat roofs, right? Big flat roofs like that, the signal's coming in here, it bounces off the flat roof and hits it like that, and you get reflections, and it can cause call problems. Just be aware of these things. Just push the antenna this side, like that. Okay? That's just from practical experience that we've had. Another little thing, power puts at the end of the wall. This is not good. Okay, you get reflections off that wall. Keep it clear, keep the antenna clear. Okay. Okay. So then we have indoor antenna placement. So make sure there's no metal objects in front of the indoor antenna. Okay. There's a false ceiling upstairs. You've got like these panels, and then there's metal kind of structure to hold the panels. Keep the inside antenna away from those metal structures. The front of the antenna. Obviously, the dome antennas, they sit on the ceiling and they come down clear of everything, so they're okay. Some guys, what they do is they put those panel antennas up on the other side of the false ceiling, which is okay, but just keep it away from the metal. Keep away from metal lampshades. So we've had installations in the lobbies of a hotel, and in the hotel, big metal lampshades coming down off the ceiling, and then you've got the Omni antenna here, and I'm standing here on my phone, no problem, and then I walk this way, and then the metal lampshade is between me and that antenna, and the signal nulls out, and it's a dramatic effect. So just be careful of that one. Where you put the indoor antennas, like with an omnidirectional antenna, it should be more in the center of the room. It shouldn't be stuck up against the side of the wall in the corner. Obviously, all the energy of the antenna is going to be blasted into the wall. That's no good. Put the omni antennas more into the center of the room. If you're in a big city with loads of base stations and that environment, and you think there's natural signal leaking in from the windows, put the antennas more towards the windows. Okay, as I described at the start. If you put the antenna over here, and I walk over towards that window, there might be a ping pong effect. Okay, so keep the antennas the window side. And again, with the panel antennas, they generally get installed on the wall, so you can keep them maybe up about that high, okay, pointing straight out. If you go higher, that's okay, but maybe start to tilt it down slightly, because you want the energy of the panel antenna towards where the users are on their phones. You don't want it to be 4 meters high, pointing straight out, because then all the energy will go straight over our heads. And every dB counts. Okay. Any questions about that? No? Okay, so this is the LEDs. So basically, the point of the LEDs is just to roughly tell you about the signal power, what the repeater is seeing. Is it too much signal or is it too little signal? So here's the antenna, and it comes into the port of the repeater. And if you have too much signal, it's not good, it's bad. If you have too little signal, it's bad. And the LEDs are going to tell you what the situation is. So here's an example. This is the power line, okay? This one here is the power line. So that just tells you there's 12 volts power on the board. But then there's no lights here, that means there's no signal. Or the antenna's not connected. If you start to see a little bit of power, that's obviously the signal strength is increasing. The situation is we've got 3 signal bars, it's still a bad signal, okay? Now we've got 6 signal bars, okay, that's a good signal. We're doing okay there. if we see 6 signal bars and an orange light turn on and off, that's perfect. That's the best situation. What that's doing is, it said the repeater is telling you in this circumstance, I have full signal bars and a little bit more, so I have to control it. So when you see the orange light, what's happening is the repeater is controlling the signal. So it sees all this power coming in and it says, okay, that's good, it's a lot, it's good, but I'm just going to control it a little bit. Optimize perfectly. If you see a red light, now the repeater's saying, okay, too much power. It's okay, it still works, everything's fine, but there's a lot of power coming down here, okay? If you see that red light start flashing, it's saying basically, it's saying, okay, I don't like this situation, I'm going to shut down in 30 seconds, okay? In 30 seconds, boom, repeater's off. And it'll stay completely off for 24 hours. Right? Now, why, you might ask, why is it doing that? And the reason is because our repeaters must be safe on the operator's network. Because these repeaters end up being installed right next to base stations. So I was telling the guys upstairs, I was in an installation last week in Paris, and on top of the building was a base station. Lots of base stations. You know, I don't know what operator it was, but the whole roof was covered in these huge antennas, and there's our antennas right next to it. You know, so we absolutely need to be safe in this situation. And so this is what will happen. It'll switch off, and then you might have the client say, "This red light's flashing," and then you can say, "Okay, well, you basically have that antenna very, very near a base station." Okay, and you can put in an attenuator to fix that situation. This doesn't happen very often. Okay. So yeah, if you have a repeater if you have a situation with that red light flashing or the red light on, okay, you just pop in an attenuator. Just pull down the signal. Okay. But an attenuator adds attenuation equally to all the bands. So if I stick that in, it's going to add 10 dBs of attenuation to all 5 frequency bands. Okay, maybe that's what you want, maybe not. But what happens? See, I put in this circumstance, if I've got 5 red LEDs, no problem. I stick in a 10 dB attenuator, that works. But if I have a situation where only 2 red LEDs, and typically this is what happens on the lower bands, well then I don't want to put in a 10 dB attenuator and add attenuation onto these higher bands, because it'll pull them down unnecessarily. So in a circumstance like that, when you've only got the red LEDs on the lower bands, we can install a low band attenuator, which is this guy here. That's a 9 dB low band attenuator. And it will basically add attenuation only to 800 and 900. Okay? So if you see that circumstance there, I can just install one of these guys. So the distance, these are general rules that you apply with installations. Generally, we say if you put an antenna on a repeater like that, keep it below 35 meters. The smaller this distance, the better. Okay? Don't go beyond 35. You're adding too much loss. These are general rules. Okay. If you do put a splitter in that, it's going to reduce the distance down. Okay. If we put line amps into the system, a line amp, you can have 100 meters of cable between the repeater and the line amp. This is very important, right? You want to, when you're installing these systems, you want to put your loss in between the line amp and the repeater. So the repeater should be at the top of the building near the outdoor antenna, minimize that cable length. Between the repeater and the line amp, maximize that distance. Okay? That's 100 meters is quite a lot. If I put a splitter in there, it reduces the distance to 80. But that's okay, 80 meters is still a lot, right? Stick a 3-way splitter, 70 meters. I got 3 line amps. Okay? And then here's the line amp, here's like a full system. And here's the line amp here. Again, when you put an antenna on the line amp, no bigger than 35 meters. It's the same rule. You want to minimize this distance. So basically, as I said, you've got the outdoor antenna to the repeater, minimize that distance. From the repeater to the line amp, you can have that as a big distance and a lot of loss in there, that's okay. And then from the line amp to the antennas, minimize that distance. Okay. Now we have an online tool where you can design all this, and it will tell you the cable lengths, if you've gone too far or too little, and I'm going to show you all that. Here's the online tool. You can just drag in the components. This is for a building. It all gets saved online. And you've got all the cable lengths, see? And if you put in too big a distance here, it'll go red and it'll warn you. And you will learn, by using this tool, you will learn very quickly how the system works and how to optimize the system. Okay? And so you won't make errors.